Hey everybody, this has been, to say the least, an eventful day. I think it's the only way I can describe uh, what's happened in NFL stadium land over the past 9 hours. Because, and really over the past week, let's just extend it out to the past week, okay? So or hey, how about go back to checking on Las Vegas weather while we're at it, right? In fact, you would say, why am I checking on the Las Vegas weather? Well, if you're not aware of what's happening, ooh boy. Okay, let's recap. First of all, the Las Vegas Stadium Authority issued its latest agenda on Monday for the meeting that was held today, Thursday. And it reported what this channel, my blog, and I have been reporting going all the way back to August of last year. That's right, August. Okay. And that was the first time that anyone mentioned a roof delay regarding Oakland Raiders Las Vegas Stadium. And I'm writing roof delay here at Oakland News Now in the search bar. And I'm getting search results for roof delay. And this goes all the way back to, actually, I said August, June 15th. Look at this, okay? In fact, we were talking about delays all the way back then. Look at this, all right? Bam. June 15th, Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Stadium roof truss problem causes new delay. Remember that? Remember that one? That's January of this year. That's November of last year. October, again, talking about the roof and its delays. July 2nd, Raiders Las Vegas construction said to be delayed by 45 days. Oakland Raiders still not giving Coliseum JPA notice of leave for Las Vegas Stadium. That was this week. December 30th, Las Vegas Stadium cover-up. Whistleblower Las Vegas Stadium workers tells Zenny 62 Media about bad bolts and bad welds problem. That was December 2nd. Hold on, Oakland Raiders and NFL may be back at Coliseum, not Las Vegas Stadium for 2020. And I reported that. That was December 13th. December 8th. More whistleblower news. Hey, Juan Ramirez, how you doing? Raiders Las Vegas Stadium trouble. This is October 10th. Las Vegas Allegiant Stadium has issues, even if Oakland Raiders won't admit it. Okay. Las Vegas Stadium Authority Construction Monitor reveals cost overruns and budget shortfalls. Las Vegas Stadium not almost done. Completion date now, October 31, 2020. All right. So this is the trust issue that was reported. All right. Oakland Raiders trust because to create stupid media war. And going on and on and on. So what does this mean? Okay. What this means is that two things. And the reason why, some of you, look, I'm not going to give you a definitive answer. I'm only going to tell you what the problem is. And the reason I'm not going to give you a definitive answer is simply because you have some people. I'm just going to say this, okay? And I'm going to direct it to the one person who keeps asking me that question. And I'm going to out you as the person asking the question. I'm going to ask you who you really are, okay? Because I really do want to know who you really are. And if you don't tell me who you are, I'm going to find out. Okay? And the reason why I'm saying that is this specifically. All right? I have a feeling I know, but all right, and that's John L. Davis. Okay? You've asked me that again and again and again. And I keep giving you the same answer. So now I'm committed to find out who you are by somebody else. I'll have other people find out who you are. And the reason why I put it out there that way is this. There are forces out there in Vegas, okay? I know you haven't been on here a long time, John Davis. I know that. I know that. There are forces out there, but you keep asking the same question again. I don't. You keep asking the same question again because I have you actually recorded. Whatever the case. Look, there are people trying to push this thing toward completion. All right, that's the real problem here. So anybody that gives you a definitive answer about what's going to happen, that's not what this is about. Okay? That's not what this is about. It's not about predicting the future. It's about explaining what's happening right now, because what's happening right now and what's happened in the past is very sinisterly bad. This is not a game. This isn't a bet. This is making sure that a project is done. Are you listening to me? Making sure a project is done in a way that saves lives. Okay? And so listen to me, because you're not listening. Take it off you. Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. There are forces out there. I'll put it this way. A person at one of the, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. A person at one of the news media organizations in Las Vegas said to me that there are hands involved in this that shouldn't be there. When I asked that person what they meant, they didn't give me any answer. Somebody else, I'll just say it straight up. Someone else said to me in a private Twitter exchange, they said that pure and simple. They said, "Hey, you have to be aware that that the mob is active. All right, the mob." And I said, "Who is the mob?" Right? Because people put that out there a lot, but who the blank is the mob? Okay, I don't know who the mob is. Hey, John Marks, how you doing? I don't know who the mob is. Who's the mob? And that's a question that, frankly speaking, when you start talking about the mob, all right, that brings up a lot of negative connotations and a lot of, gee, you don't want to find out certain things sort of stuff. Okay, all right, and that's why I'm saying to you, there are forces who are pushing this to get done and could very well get their way and make this get done in a way where that stadium is not safe to be opened. That's some of the talk that I was privy to when I was in Las Vegas. Okay, so this has become a very dicey situation, and if I were the NFL, I would be very concerned about what's going on. Okay, I don't think I'm not gonna. Yeah, we have to wait, John Davis. That's right. Wait and make it safe, and that's right. Right. Wait and make it safe, because right now it's not there. And if you take a look, I deliberately downloaded and made a copy of what Don Webb said, because that was the most crucial part of the meeting. And he did a major league dance, okay, in his presentation that was just like, wow, it was shocking. It was shocking in its presentation. Shocking because it was quite obvious by the way he gave the presentation that Webb was concerned about how the project was being perceived, and he was concerned. He was told to go front and center and basically do damage control. All right, okay, and do damage control. Excuse me. And I have to say that I think overall, oh, Vegas was wonderful. I love Vegas. I have to say overall, it was a disaster. The whole week was a disaster. And it was disaster because they were put on a fast track. A number of the contractors have said we're on a fast track. They wrote that online on their own presentations with respect to Las Vegas State. Want to read one example of them? Go to Oakland News Now and click on the whistleblower reports on the front page. And they're there, those links to where one organization, Arab, had referred to there being on a fast track. All these subcontractors are rushing. FreshNet out of Canada, that's the stadium cable net roof subcontractor, they're on a fast track. And whistleblower workers have accused them of, for want of a better term, but I think it's a fair term to use, not quite being thorough in their work. Okay. All right. So it's the real problem. Ed Wheat says you hit it on nails in the game has said that excuse me for one moment. Said that the game has said the same thing about the problems that Vegas has. One made a comment that don't be surprised the Raiders are in Oakland 20 and 20, possibly 2021. You know, they took a very complicated project in terms of its roof design, and they tried to rush a complicated project rather than saying we need time. And then when they made the mistakes in rushing to mitigate the mistakes, they made more mistakes. More specifically, in rushing to get the cable net roof up, they actually stressed parts of the area by pulling on it. This is something that Don Webb didn't admit to. Don Webb does not really know this. He has the engineers telling him what to say. This is a very sophisticated public relations job from the standpoint of trying to explain something to the public that has to deal with a complex system that many people, the layperson doesn't have the training to understand and is willing to believe the extremes. Either something is very good or very bad as opposed to the middle. And more often than not, when you have that situation, the public sides with a positive report on the problem unless something goes critically bad. Okay. And the problem with what the Raiders have done is they've chosen to go along with a Nevada process that says we are not going to have these common disclosure web pages where we explain to you in detail everything that's going on. We're going to funnel our information through one media source, that's it, and we're going to let them have it, and that's it. We're not going to have a public website. No, Clark County does not have a website that's dedicated to press releases and information, and yet they have a bond issue from the Las Vegas Stadium Authority. So the Las Vegas Stadium Authority should have press release updates on the project. You cannot find a weekly, hear what I'm saying, a weekly press release update on the Stadium Authority website. You can go months not knowing what's going on. By stark contrast, the Salesforce Transit Center, the regional transit hub that was just recently finished last year in San Francisco and was built by my client, Maria Rudy Kaplan, who built the Salesforce Transit Center, established the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority, had weekly press release postings, press conference updates. It wasn't we're being transparent. They put, if something went right, you knew it. If something went wrong, you knew it. Okay? They left nothing to the imagination, or I should say as little as possible. Photographs of steel flanges that may have went supercritical, materials, everything. They were all there during the steel cracking incident. Okay? So you put that as the high watermark example of how a project of this cost should be treated. And then you have the Raiders project right here on the opposite end of the spectrum. That's where we are, folks. Right here is where you get into situations that where everybody has to be careful about what's talked about, what's said, because you want to be respectful of the workers, you want to be respectful of the elected officials, you want to be respectful of the system, because you want to hope that they do it right and get it right. But at the same time, you have to be analytical and critical too, if you care, okay? And you want to get the news out the right way. So, and that's the tightrope that has to be walked. It can't come off as personal. I don't have any personal animus here. I have said before that when Adelson got involved in this, I thought game over because he's worth 30 billion. But clearly, his lack of involvement in this in the way that was originally envisioned has created a towering problem for the Raiders, for Mortensen and McCarthy, for Clark County, for everybody else, because now they're dealing with costs and cost overruns, and they're hoping the weather cooperates. That's what they said. Okay, they are hoping the weather cooperates. I'm gonna read some of your comments before I get too far. John Mark says, "Could Oakland make a deal with the Raiders?" Well, they already made one deal. I was trying to explain that to Jason. Somebody was, I think it was Jason Cole on Facebook. But anyway, I explained a number of times. You know this, that the Raiders signed the lease extension with the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority when it was ran by Scott McKibben last year for this year. And McKibben has said to me as many times as there are stars in the universe that, look, the Raiders have until April 1st at 5 o'clock when the clock strikes midnight. Ding time is up, okay? They don't have any more time. And the question is why, why chance that? Why chance a situation where you are on pins and needles? And they reflected the fact that they're on pins and needles today. Let me get to your comments here. John Mark says, can we still use your Coliseum City plan for the Raiders on days if Howard Terminal fails? That is, the answer to that is yeah, you could. But Coliseum City was sized. Yeah, you could use Coliseum City at Coliseum City, absolutely. Donis says, does Mark Davis partly own the Vegas Stadium? No, Mark Davis does not own the Las Vegas Stadium. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Donis, because in the Raiders case, they wanted to own, at least made it clear to us, that Mark wanted to own the stadium in Oakland. Okay, so the ownership structure, which in the version that I set up and in other versions was a triumvirate that was comprised of the Joint Powers Authority, the city and the county, and the Raiders in a new LLC. All right, that's the way that would have been designed to handle the revenue flow. Okay, and the bond issues. So because particularly if you're talking about industrial development bond, I'm getting a little technical here, so I don't want to get too far off the reservation. But the bottom line is, in that context, to answer your question, Ron Ramirez, that would have been an ownership that favored the Raiders, and that would have directed toward the stadium. But in the case of Clark County and Nevada, Clark County, through the Stadium Authority, is the clear owner of Las Vegas Stadium, not the Raiders. The Raiders are a tenant. They get revenue flows to the organization through Stadco from stadium operations, from the PSLs, the luxury suites primarily, and other fees, concessions, and so on. All right? They get that. And it's going to be a great chunk for the Raiders once they get going. But they get that. Now, if the Raiders are, and I can't see this happening right now given, well, I could see this happening, but I'll just say it. If they're not able to pay Bank of America back their line of credit, there's the extreme in which I won't believe it ever will come. But it's out there. Having said that, I don't believe it will ever happen that Bank of America would evict the Raiders. The Oakland Raiders are contractually in a position where Bank of America is their actual landlord. Bank of America owns the leasehold. The Raiders are within it. So you have the Raiders here, you have Bank of America, and you have the stadium authority around it. Okay? That's the ownership structure. That's how it goes. Okay? So, yeah, in the extreme case, which would never happen, say never, but never happened, the Raiders could be kicked out by Bank of America, and then Bank of America would work with the stadium authority to find another tenant. That's the way the structure is built. All right. So you get to your comments, and Donis, there's your answer. Edward Reed says Webb and others look worried when giving their reports. From the money on down to the construction, I would love to have the Raiders stay home forever, but I pray there are no casualties because of the rush. I 1,000,000,000% agree with you. I love Las Vegas, and I think Las Vegas would be a hoot to see Las Vegas have a large scale event center. I don't like the way this came about, but I've said it before and I say it again. Look, you don't have the Oakland doing anything other than the A's to really say, hey, look, you know what, sports is in our future. By contrast, Atlanta here just landed the Final Four is going to be here, right, at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So you've got the rest of the world moving forward and Oakland just sort of standing still with these problems of homelessness and break-ins and smash and grabs that are scaring the heck out of people. And the only hope really being finishing Howard Terminal, which I believe the city of Oakland will do. It's the last best hope, but the A's are a willing participant. The Raiders were not a willing participant. That's the big difference. The Raiders can say all kinds of stories they have conjured up in Vegas about, oh, we didn't get this. But the Raiders were not committed only to Oakland, and they never have been. And the Raiders, I think, would do a lot of people a lot of good if they just stopped playing the game and just said, hey, you know what, here's the truth. We didn't want to be in Oakland. That would solve a lot of problems in terms of, it may not win a court case, all right? Because if they said that, they would basically be admitting that they hoodwinked everybody. And you might as well just say, hey, we don't need a trial. Guilty, right? Forget it. So anyway, so on that basis, you may not catch them saying that, but given the amount of money that they could conceivably make there, I think it might as well be a good idea to just simply be honest with everybody. I don't think gambling is going to be the panacea the Raiders believe for them because they're too slow in enacting it. You have other states that are faster along, and I believe the Raiders have gotten themselves into a situation where they don't want to give up ownership to casino types, and you can feel that out there, kind of lingering like a vulture, like a ghost, kind of like in the background, right? You can feel it. It's palpable. And when you start talking to people, looking around the situation, you feel it. So Juan Ramirez says, if there's ever a 30 by 30 segment of this, ESPN better give you credit for this ongoing saga. Hey, it would be nice. But hey, look, Ramirez says they will never find a cheaper stadium to play than Oakland, and they're leasing a stadium. Yeah, they're leasing. All right. Then John Mark says, can we use the Coliseum land for the Raiders if Vegas fails to make the stadium safe? Sure. I mean, I don't. That's a matter of the city and the county, and because the county is still involved in it until it's not, and the A's. But absolutely, I would think so. The Raiders says, Raider P says, the report Darren Webb gave was not very convincing. In my opinion, this stadium will be done. Oh, let me reread that. Raider P says that report Don Webb gave. This is what I'm reading here, folks. All right. This. He says that report Don Webb gave was not very convincing, in my opinion, that the stadium will be done. Right. I agree with you. Okay. It was not convincing. And I'll play what he means in a second. Pedro Gallardo says, general stadium question. Why ain't stadium design like Lambeau Field in Los Angeles or in Los Angeles Coliseum as in one huge deck? Well, excuse me. It is a good stadium question. I'm going to address it now, even though it's going to take a little time. But I'll tell you, it's because, let's say if it were one deck, all right? All of the luxury boxes, the press boxes would have to go at the rim at the top. They would either have to be at the very top or at the bottom. And you can only fit so many. If you're saying you have to put the suites at the bottom, that means you have a limited number on the end zones because you have to leave the side spaces free for the teams, right? If you put them at the top, then you have to make sure that the structure there at the rim is strong enough to handle not just the structure that holds them, but the harmonic motion and the vibration on high and from that. And then, of course, you got one rim at the top, you're going to have two rims, okay? If you take a look at Lambeau Field, you were saying it's more like one, but take a good look at it because it's not, in the case of Lambeau Field, not exactly as you describe it. It's Lambeau Field, there it is. It's more like this. We take a look at the images, okay? It's more like this. And so here it is, right here, okay? Like that, all right? That's a big, heavy structure. That's far as much on the West Coast is because of earthquakes and tremors. You got people here, this is harmonic motion that has to be transferred through these structures. It's better to have them more mid-range so that the structure absorbs the vibration, all right? That's me talking. I'm not saying it can't be done, but there is a reason why it hasn't been done, and there is a reason why a number of stadiums don't have that design. That's a Midwest design. It's a cheaper design. It's a less expensive design. I don't know that design can withstand a 6 on the Richter scale earthquake. That's a gigantic concern out west. So I wouldn't. That would not be my first approach at all in stadium design, because when I look at that, I think, all right, I've got this cap with all these people running around, and I have to have ability to absorb and transfer this harmonic motion. So I'd literally have to have two structures, and in order to deal with quakes. So I'm not seeing that as the most optimal solution. Just saying. I'm not saying you can't do it. You can do anything you want to. But hey, you know what? The problem starts when it starts to collapse. So, all right. So, let's see here. 530. Oh. And Donis says, any news regarding the Rams Stadium? The Rams Stadium is looking great. I'll get to that later. I don't want to get too far off the track, except that, well, let's take a look at where we are, okay? And with the Rams Stadium, I'll take that later because a number of you have good questions that focus on this subject. So let me stick on that right now. And let me go back to getting Don Webb, because I think Keith Roscoe asked a question. And I will turn here, and then, how you doing, Keith, by the way? And then Ron Moore says, we have weak laws here in California. And then he adds, we overtax everything. It's an insane direction we're heading, with the state wanting to increase companies to be taxed more. We will see many companies leave the state. Yep. And John Marks says that. Keith Roscoe says, Juan, taxes and regulations are tough in California. Democrat control. Juan Ramirez says, what was your feeling about the potential parking distance from surrounding areas to the stadium? I am only assuming traffic will be an absolute nightmare. Everybody I've talked to in Las Vegas is concerned at some level about the traffic. And when Mark Bedane gave his presentation, one thing he didn't talk about was how you're going to get people from parking space A or B or C to the stadium. And if they modeled that out, it's one thing to say that, you know, they modeled out the stadium or something like that, right? And its construction, but did they do any transportation modeling, with respect to the flow of people in and out of the stadium to their respective spots under various conditions? Let's say Monday Night Football, all right? Monday Night Football game in Las Vegas is going to start at, 6 o'clock? Okay, that's rush hour. And it's next to the airport. So it seems like a uniquely dicey situation. And then what if that Monday night game happens to be during a big event in Vegas, concerts or something? So everyone in Vegas has said to me, to a person, that traffic is going to be the biggest problem there is. That has been the case. And Bedane did not address that. At some point, he's going to have to. Now, Raiders P says, I'm still a Raider fan because I support the players, not Davis. Okay. Juan Ramirez says, yep. Keith. John Davis says, do you know the percentage of PSL seats? I heard they are all sold out. Yep. And no, this doesn't mean higher ticket prices. Well, it does. They're all sold out. And a lot of the people who bought them are connected with, well, Bedane says it's Northern California, Southern California, and some local. It's like a 60-40 split. I highly believe that a lot of those tickets you're going to find that a lot of those things were bought by people who are ticket brokers. Some fans, yes, but ticket brokers for the most part, because we're talking about Las Vegas and we're talking about hospitality. So the one thing that the Raiders haven't talked about, but I know it's on their mind because I know the NFL, is what's called NFL on location. And that's where you sell these experiences to be at the Raiders stadium, everything else. They haven't talked about it. I know it's in the back of their mind because selling experiences is a multi-billion-dollar industry now. All right. You are selling tickets in the case of the NFL. I don't care what the experience is. It still boils down to selling tickets. And selling the ticket experience isn't limited to the league. You have travel agencies, you have casinos, you have a number of firms that are going to want to put together these packages and send them to Vegas in this unique opportunity to see a football game in Sin City, a professional football game. Never happened before. So you're going to get a different animal that way. And I don't really think the Raiders said they've been in conversation with the people. They know what they're going to get. But I contend they don't know exactly how that person is going to behave until they get there. I don't mean in a bad way or anything like that, but I mean in terms of whether or not they're true fans as opposed to business people who bought a ticket. All right? So, but Don Davis, as far as the percentage, Bedane said it's 90. It's about right. And Keith Russell says, so why did you think it wasn't convincing? I'll get to that in a second. He's late to the party. How you doing? And John Marks Rito says, I have a question. I want to relocate back to Oakland. What are the chances I can get a good deal on a commercial place for a business? I would say they're better than advertised. Don't be afraid to look at places like the Oakland Airport Business Park. Joseph Amenderis says, I had a Don Webb statement in the beginning of a live chat. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. And then, excuse me. Can you like copy and paste that so I don't have to go back? Albert says, I wonder why Green Bay chose to have an NFL team instead of Milwaukee. That's history. Ron Ramirez says, Scalpers. Michael Monte Calvo. That is a cool last name, Monte Calvo. Did I pronounce it correctly? He says, traffic is not a problem at all. Most people arriving by foot. Michael, I don't know if you live in Las Vegas, but I'm telling you, people I talk to in Vegas say it's a problem, and I'll play that for you in a second. John Davis says, great scalpers. Keith Roscoe says, your investigative reporting exposing broken bolts and the small partial collapse turned out to be true. And thank you. I have to credit, however, Don Webb was not my source. My source was, these are actual workers who are still, in some cases, on the job, okay? And they were quite concerned about what they saw as cutting corners. But I want to emphasize, again, these workers are very proud of what they've done, and they're very defensive of other workers. They were very scrutinizing, for want of a better term, of how I presented the workers, and very careful with me about what I should say. Otherwise, I would have lost them, and I didn't. So I'm very proud of that. So I felt like I was a mouthpiece for them. And in so much as you all have appreciated the coverage, they're the ones to thank, even though you're never going to find out who they are. But my job was to be a mouthpiece for them and say, hey, you know what? There's some real problems here. These folks are concerned. They're not anti-stadium or anti-anybody. What they're anti is not doing something right. These are folks that have long tenures as metal workers, iron workers. They're very proud people. Okay, so don't mistake this for some jazzy Yahoo effort to undermine or any just crap like that. No, these are serious people who are very proud of what they've done on the job out there, and were very concerned about how their subcontractor bosses were behaving. Okay, now this is not a joke. This is not a joke. So again, I'm very proud that I'm very honored that they chose me to contact, and went through the prompts, because they could have just said, I'm not going to deal with this. I made them go through some hoops, because I'm very paranoid about people, just throwing crap at me and I don't know who they are. No, I know who these folks are. They're good people. Ron Ramirez says, Vegas was built by people losing their money. Davis will continue the tradition of losing in the end. John Davis says, I hate it when all these sites buy up the tickets and sell them for 5 times the price, and that's what's going to happen. Pedro Gallardo says, I agree. I personally know people who bought SoFi Stadium SoFi Stadium PSLs. They're not Chargers or Rams fans. And Joseph says, watching Don Webb trying to dismiss social media and YouTube reports tells me that your reporting has them concerned. It should have them concerned. The 34 people watching this right now, 1 or 2 of them may be them. I'm not against them. I regard Mark Bedane as a top flight NFL executive and a friend. Okay, I'm not against Mark Bedane. I never have been. It was Mark who asked me for advice regarding who to contact regarding industrial development bonds. We were talking when he got hired as president. I appreciate that he had enough respect for me to ask. I don't forget stuff like that. All right. So it's, I'm trying to walk a tightrope here. I don't want to have people upset with me, but I do want to send out red flags to say, hey, this is a problem here and there. This is where this can be improved. All right. And you can achieve your objectives. All right. Because I have to say this straight out. Anybody who doesn't want them to achieve their objective at this point, look, what's the alternative? I mean, the alternative is to dream and wish that Oakland would do something that it's not doing. And I've come to terms with, look, I'm not in, you want to know what my feeling is? They didn't ask me to be involved. Libby didn't say, Zinni, I want you to be involved. Libby didn't Robert Bob me. Robert Bob, for the Super Bowl, Robert Bob deputized me. He put me in charge. Libby had the chance to put me in charge. She didn't do it. So I feel no pain about this. For those of you out there who are wondering, well, how come, Zinni is, this and, well, you know what? They didn't put me in charge. If they put me in charge in Oakland, and I know I could have gotten the job done, because they put me in charge with the Super Bowl. They gave me very little money, very little chance, and I almost did it. And watch them basically sweat because they didn't think I was going to get that far, because they have, because people have these psychological issues about somebody black doing a job. I mean, think about that, right? But Robert Bob didn't. Okay? So people who have that kind of racism, they pay for it in the end. I'm very happy to point out problems that other people make in this instance. Now, is that Christ-like? No, it's not. Okay, it's not the best way to be. But I'm just being honest with you about my motivations. Okay, period. She didn't put me in charge. So why the heck should I be, cry about what they're going to do and everything else? They don't want me to be in charge. If they did, they'd have said, do it. Somebody did say to me that I should reach out to Dave Cavall in the case of the A's and help him with tax increment financing, right? Dave ought to call me. I have people out there talking about me thousands of times a day, saying all kinds of stuff. I'm used to that, all right? But the bottom line is this. I know, had I been in charge of the project, the Raiders would have been in Oakland, or there would have been if we had a sports commission. I started the sports commission. Oakland didn't maintain it. All right? I started the only active sports commission that the city of Oakland has ever had. People came with the Commission Visitors Bureau after me, started talking, but they never did. I don't talk. I do. Okay? If I'm talking about something, it's because I'm going to do it, and I'll get it done. Doesn't matter how long it takes, I'll get it done. So why should I feel any pain for Oakland when Oakland didn't put me in charge, and I'm the guy that has the only record of forming the bid for the Super Bowl to come there, and I almost won. Think about that. Okay, so there it is for those of you who are pissed off about that, my opinion on that. Okay, all right. So anyway, getting back to Pedro Gallardo says, when can we hear the official news that LV Stadium will be delayed until another year? Don't know. I have a feeling they're going to figure out a way to slide this under the radar. I hope not, because I think that if they do, it'll be a disaster. But my feeling is that they're going to try. I hope not. So I'm just watching. There are a lot of things, and Pedro, let's take this another way. Let me tell you what you should hear and when you should hear it. If there's a significant weather event, extreme cold, rain, or both, and you get this delay of 12 days, all right, that's when they should come out with something. If they don't, it's more dangerous. Then at that point, you got to say, what are you guys doing, and why are you doing it, and why are you playing with fire? It would be left to the NFL, which really is people forget it's the NFL that has to make the call here. The Raiders are not going to force the rest of the league to play in a stadium that isn't ready. There's a reason the stadium does not have a Super Bowl. You understand that, right? The stadium still has not been granted a Super Bowl. Okay? So if the NFL has not granted the stadium a Super Bowl, what does that tell you? It means it's not ready. It's not going to be ready in the future. They don't know when. They like to be optimistic and say, hey, we think you can get it done. The NFL is not going to diss them. The NFL is going to nice Las Vegas the death. You understand? That's what the NFL is a master at doing. I learned how to do it when I was with the league. That's the way the league works. The league is jack bull focused on, to an nth degree, accurate political protocol on a level that a lot of people in Las Vegas haven't seen. Period. It's not I'm more powerful than you. It's, look, we are very concerned about having a great relationship with you within the context of what we're trying to do. That's the NFL. So the NFL will never at any point give you the impression it doesn't want to deal with you until you reach the bitter end. And you should never want to reach that with the league. All right? So there you go. Okay. Ramir says, I agree with you. John Mark says Bob's a great guy. He is. Alex Espinoza says, if Allegiant Stadium isn't ready for the Raiders for the 2020 season, then what will happen with all those season tickets already sold? Well, they would simply just have to be, well, they haven't been sold. Well, first of all, let's think about this. We don't have any games. Okay, you sold a season ticket, but you don't have a game obligation. You don't know specifically who the Raiders are going to play at what time and day. Scheduling. The exact schedule has not been determined or released. All right? So, okay, you don't have that problem right now. Raiders P says, you about that, Zen? Pedro Gallardo says, I wish that Super Bowl was in Oakland, even though the dang Patriots won. Yeah, it would have been nice in Oakland. Black Lion says, one love. Hey, how you doing, man? John Mark says, one. And so he says, what was that with Seth Andrews? Black channel, black. Anyway, Raider P says, yep, NFL don't want to lose their cash cow in Vegas, and that they're not going to be true to the people about the stadium. Yeah, that's a big thing. Greater P, that's a great point. That $750 million subsidy is why they're there. And the owners, to a person, that was the, like, oh my God, Mark Davis did that moment. So they are obligated to see this through with him. And Jerry Jones, don't forget, Jerry Jones has a major stake in this, being the owner representative for with Legends, okay? Don't forget that. Keith Roscoe says seat licenses has been sold out. That's right. Not tickets. That's right. Black Lion says 4 Chucky heads on that John Mark's talk. All right. John Mark says loud, awesome BLS. Okay, now here's that is funny. All right. This is Don Webb. I want to show you this real quick, all right? Right here, okay? This is Don Webb. As far as E-Rise, Cal, you're late to the party. So how likely is the Looking Raiders playing Oakland for 2020? Stay tuned, man. Just have to say stay tuned. Again, because you just arrived here, but I will tell you, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There are some forces at play that don't want that to happen, and I fear that they're going to make a drastic mistake.
Get tired of looking at it.
This is Dharma.
This area to take place. We'll begin actually pouring concrete on that field tray, which is slightly larger than the actual football field, later on this week. And you can see that enormous series of super trusses beneath which the field tray will ultimately roll into. As you look through the open oculus of the roof, you can see the cable net system, which is partly erected. Fortunately, is high enough that we can do work beneath it. And you know what? I think we'll just pause it there. Go into what everyone has been so interested in waiting to hear. Because Allegiant Stadium is an enormous, high-profile project with unprecedented public scrutiny, any construction hiccup becomes exaggerated throughout the social media and the press. The unfortunate newspaper headlines earlier this week, based upon an excerpt from the report by the Stadium Authority's construction representative, is an example. So this morning, this afternoon, I'd like to touch on a handful of topics. What happened, what's being done, the impact on the budget, the impact on the schedule, and then I'd like to make some comments about the Grand Canyon report. So first of all, what happened? During the ordinary course of building anything, not everything always falls into place as smoothly as planned. This would be true whether you're building a doghouse or whether you're building a luxury hotel. And it's the case in building a huge stadium with a project schedule containing more than 43,000 individual tasks as well. One such event happened recently during the installation of the stainless steel cable net system, which will ultimately support this ETFE roof. As the stainless steel cabling grid was being hoisted into place and attached to the circumferential compression ring formed by the steel canopy roof, one of the connections was overstressed and resulted in a handful of bolts holding one of the more than 100 joints.
All right, I need to break in right there. And the reason why is because what he said was disputed by the Las Vegas whistleblower workers. I want to go back to what I was told, because when my sources heard that, they went freaking ballistic. And that was, he said that before. This is he repeated it, all right? But what I'm going to read to you is what they said in response to that. It's posted on Oakland News Now, but it is vitally important you understand that what he said was refuted by the whistleblower workers. And excuse me, I'm going to right now go in there and read that. The article is called the post is called Las Vegas Stadium Authority Report Confirms Whistleblower Claims Roof Delayed to May 2020 or Beyond. I'm actually copying it and I'm going to paste it into a link right here, right now, under this arrow, and then voila, I've just pasted it and it should come. There it is. That's the link right there, folks. Okay. All right. That's the link right there. And so where I'm going and reading this as I go down, all right, in the bottom, you can go all the way down to, first of all, I want you to stop right here where it says Las Vegas Stadium whistleblower workers texts Zenny Abraham reveal what has to be done to repair the cable net lifting process and finish the roof. All right. And it says, for your clarification, in order for FreshNet, the cable net subcontractor, to start attaching and beginning lifting process, these things needed to be 100% per the original sequence of work for DER and the decking company in order for FreshNet to start. 1, complete erection of main structural members and tie-in members. 2, all bolts need to be installed and inspected. 3, decking is metal sheets that cover the main roof structure. This needs to be 100%. I explained what deck was for you. 4, all the above things I just listed have allowances for leave-out iron, deck sheets, and in spot random bolts. That being said, all main members should be complete. This includes everything attached to the interior. CR is compression ring. Okay. When we started to install temp work on the top deck and the construction and the compression ring, these things weren't complete. 1, DER was still making the critical cantilever picks. DER is a subcontractor. Deck was not even close to being completed. They rushed the deckers to catch up. This caused bolts to be covered and caused a lot of extra work for both companies, more importantly, the men. 3, the nodes were still needed to be shimmed and bolted and torqued when FreshNet started to pull the cables. All the above was a rush to make up earlier delays. FreshNet started as needed by Mortensen McCarthy. Okay, this was not the sequence, nor was the wing completed. Nodes, shims, bolts still need to be installed and inspected. Okay, now I mentioned November project reports. I'm going to leave that because it still brings more questions that I'm going to follow it up because December didn't add to it. It just, okay. Thank you, Patrick. And I owe you something too. All right. Now, I want to get, again, this is the first time he mentioned the stressing. He said he expects the cables to be attached to the rim roof by the pinning by the middle of November. So they're behind schedule on the pinning. All right. And that's the first thing. And then he went on to say that he described how that went. Okay. And then he said, I'm going down. Let's skip over that. So going back to that was the oh yeah, here we go. Don Webb responds to this blog post via the Review Journal, but unknowingly confirms whistleblower worker claims. All right, and he said that they were still inspecting the nodes and pulling on cables. If one wasn't ready, they go on the next one. That's what the whistleblower worker said. All right, this is what Webb said. He said, Grand Canyon Development Partners uh, briefed the board on the interruption of the cable lift and the rescheduling work as a result of overstressing of the structural members. Grand Canyon concluded that the delay in resequencing of the work should not negatively affect the overall completion schedule. Okay. And this is the response as well as it happens. Okay. All right. Pay attention to this, please. Okay. It says, well, as it happens, the overstressing of the structural members occurred because, as the workers reported, they were still inspecting the nodes and pulling on the cables. If one wasn't ready, they go to the next node and thus cause more stress on the doggone cables, okay? Don Webb in the Vegas Review Journal just admitted there was a problem. The nighttime cable pulling came out of an overall desire to meet a hugely aggressive stadium completion deadline. That has caused the stadium construction managers to take a number of risks that workers and this blogger have questioned. All right. So again, Don Webb went back to doing the same damn thing in the video that the workers went ballistic over him saying. It's not a few. There have been damages all over the place because of their going back and trying to rush this doggone project and making mistakes along the way. And for, obvious reasons, Don Webb doesn't want to own that. Okay, let's go back to what Webb was saying, all right?
In the lower portion of the feature break. Bear in mind that we are talking about literally a handful of bolts in a structure which has more than 500,000 similar bolts. No one was injured, and the structure was never in jeopardy of failure. What's being done? The bolts were analyzed by Wiss, Janney, Elsner Associates, a metallurgical testing lab, to determine if there were manufacturing defects or flaws in the materials. The lab determined that the bolts were completely as specified, not defective in any way. A team of 5 structural engineering firms, Arup, Thornton Tomasetti, Geiger Engineers, Simpson Gumpertz, and Bollinger Goldman, modeled the conditions and developed sophisticated computer simulations of what happened in order to identify the precise causes and confirm that there were no underlying design defects. There are none. The same team of engineers then developed a very detailed revised installation sequence and methodology, as well as a testing and measurement protocol to ensure that the forces similar to the ones which contributed to the breakage would not be repeated. This revised installation procedure was reviewed extensively with Clark County building officials prior to the resumption of the cable installation. Any one of the 5 engineering firms, as well as Clark County building officials, had the ability to veto any aspect of the revised plan. And it was only after the completion of this exhaustive, time-consuming process that work on the cable net resumed last week. It's worthwhile to note that the forces imposed on the compression ring by the cables are at their very maximum during the installation process, and that these forces significantly decrease once the system is fully in place. For instance, the force on an individual cable during the installation is approximately 850,000 pounds, but this force decreases by more than 75% once that cable net is finally in place. As expected, the broken bolts in the damaged connection were replaced, but additionally, even though the nearly 1,700 bolts making up the other 105 similar connections were determined to be undamaged, in an abundance of caution, Mortensen McCarthy chose to systematically remove and replace all of the remaining connection bolts as well. This was not required by the engineers, nor was it a requirement of the county. It was simply another example of the thoroughness and commitment to quality and safety that is one of the key reasons we selected Mortensen to lead the construction. These people are problem solvers. The budget impact. Mortensen McCarthy and their subcontractors own all of the costs impacts associated with the installation of the cable net and ETFE roof. This would include any costs arising out of the incidental damages to the building, such as rain, or any of the costs associated with resequencing or accelerating the schedule in order to meet the completion date. Neither Stadco nor especially the Stadium Authority have any liability for costs arising out of the cable net delay. What's the schedule impact? Mortensen McCarthy has already begun implementing a recovery schedule for the roof completion, which includes using 3 cranes instead of 1 to remove the cable net hoisting equipment from the canopy roof, recovering 25 days during the ETFE installation alone by using multiple installation crews and installing safety netting beneath the entire 7-acre oculus, rather than just about 1/8 of that area as originally planned. Using 2 cranes for the ETFE framing installation rather than a single crane as originally planned. And installing the ETFE material on a 6-day per week schedule rather than a 5-day per week schedule as originally planned. As a result, the cable netting installation was delayed, which was delayed by approximately 60 days. The date by which the building will be fully enclosed and weathertight will have only been delayed by about 30 days. Mid-May instead of mid-April. Now, the Grand Canyon report, it correctly notes at least 8 separate times that the completion of the construction will be on time. And Tony has reiterated that multiple times here this morning. Secondly, it correctly observes that many mission-critical items, such as mechanical equipment and food service equipment, are ahead of schedule. And then finally, it conjectures that the completion date may be in jeopardy if rain causes damage to interior finishes. It's not that this conjecture is incorrect, so much as it is irrelevant. I'll tell you why. The idea that rain will cause substantial schedule jeopardizing damage is belied by the actual experience in December, which, according to the National Weather Service, saw 200% of the normal December rainfall. Yet the total damage sustained prior to the current protective measures, which have been put in place, was less than $100,000 and resulted in no scheduled delay. So even the rainiest month of the year, with twice the normal rainfall, was hardly a showstopper. And according to the same National Weather Service, the average rainfall during the additional month in which the ETFE roof remains open varies from between 12% and 16% of the rainfall that was actually experienced in December. So if December's double the normal rainfall had virtually no impact on the completion schedule, then surely a month with a small fraction of that rainfall will not be a showstopper either. And bear in mind that in December, less than 60% of the exterior glass wall was in place, whereas it will be fully in place in March. With the exterior wall in place and the steel canopy roof, which covers the concourses, suites, concessions, the highly finished areas are protected against the rain. The remaining portion of the roof open to the rain, the ETFE area, resides above the concrete field level floor and portions of the concrete seating bowl treads. Rain falling upon the field level concrete floor or concrete seating treads, which are sealed and caulked precisely so that they will shed water when the building is washed down, is hardly a showstopper, especially when the normal rainfall amounts to less than 1/4 of an inch during that entire month. Mortensen has extensive experience in constructing major sports and entertainment facilities. U.S. Bank Stadium, where the Vikings call home. SunTrust Park, home to the Atlanta Braves. Target Field, Coors Field, TCF Bank Stadium, Chase Center, FedEx Forum, and many other stadiums which have been successfully completed on time by them. Mortensen has never failed to complete a sports facility on time. Allegiant Stadium will not be their first failure because Allegiant Stadium will be completed on time. I'm happy to take your questions.
They don't ask
Any
any.
questions for Mr. Webb?
Seriously? Boards and
Okay. I will turn it over to
okay.
Mr. Bedane, who will correct any of my errors and talk. Welcome, Mr. Bedane.
Now, Mark's.
For the record, Mark Bedane. Who wants to talk parking? All right. Thanks, Don.
Now I'll upload Mark's presentation later in the week by tomorrow. But that I wanted you to hear all that, but you now understand.
Would you bring up the
Excuse me.
video and I'll narrate just a little.
The problem. I hope you understand the problem that his explanation presents with respect to what I was told by Las Vegas whistleblower workers. Okay, and so that is, it sends up. I mean, someone asked me what I thought of the presentation. Again, it was a lot of, hey, you know what? We're going to finish this on time. We're going to finish this on time. And it was definitely an obvious public relations job. Clearly signaling that this entire week has been a bad one. And they're in crisis mode. I said this at the start of this, around it. I'll say it again. You know, keep an eye on Las Vegas weather. I'm typing Las Vegas weather right now and looking at the forecast. Right now it's 50 degrees, 53 degrees and sunny. It's partly cloudy Friday. Sunday it's supposed to be completely cloudy. There's no precipitation, is 2%, right? There's no forecast right now for anything bad, anything in the way of bad weather, okay? If I type Las Vegas weather rain like that, on the other hand, you never know because it's weird. It really can be weird. And so you've got in the 10-day forecast, you don't have anything that's coming. Weather.com has hourly weather where it's clear with 0% precipitation, but it goes up to 5% by 11. But in general, it's 0%, okay? So there are going to be people watching this like a hawk. Everybody's going to be watching this information like a hawk. Because not only is it the rain, it's also the snow and the freezing temperatures that could come about. That's a terrible position to be in. It really is. Straight out. Just so you're just scared to death over the next time you get rain. Vegas Valley may get first rain of 2020 this week. That was earlier in the week when we were there. That was January 12th. And they're expecting it. We didn't see that rain. CES didn't bring a rain situation. And I've been there in the past when CES did bring a lot of rain, flash flood, right? It's tricky that way. You think you're going to get through. Lately, you think, okay, we're going to get through here without rain. All of a sudden, whew, like December was flash flood. So I would not want to rest my life on a forecast, on an iffy forecast. That's precisely what we're talking about. It's that whole, oh, it never rains in Las Vegas thing, right? They said that last year. Don Webb said that last year. Oh, it never rains. We don't have a rain problem. We had a rain problem. So if the smart action is to simply just factor in for the possibility of rain, not say we're not going to get it, but say, you know what? We're going to build in these delays. We expect rain to occur, so we're not going to fast track this. This is what we're going to do, rather than say, oh, hey, and then just admit, we're not going to open on time. Because our mind, everybody, this thing was supposed to originally have been done by May. I mean, opened. That was the idea. We went from May to June to July to August to September. And then we got to September and they started producing these scheduling reports that said that the stadium wouldn't be ready until mid-September. Somebody there went bonkers and they moved them all the way back to substantial completion July 31st, 2020. And then they had Tommy White coming out saying, oh, it's going to be finished July 31st, 2020. And did you notice that Tommy White was not at the meeting? Okay. So, and I don't know if there was an illness, or maybe somebody took his place. But let me look that up. But or maybe I just didn't, or maybe he was there and I didn't notice it. But I have to go back and count heads. But okay. So Joseph Armanduras, John Mark says snow in Vegas. Yeah, snow in Vegas. Keith Roscoe says, I love how the board asked no questions. Cover. They didn't ask anything, which to me is either very good or very bad. At first I thought it was very bad, or it's very good in that they're keeping their real thoughts to themselves, which might be damaging for some people. John Collins says, hello, I saw February is the rainiest month of the year in Vegas. Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks, John. And John Mark says, it never rains in Southern Nevada. Huh. John Davis says, when all these rich guys' cars are floating around the parking lot, someone might take notice. Oh, that's funny stuff. That is funny stuff. Yeah, I'm trying to go around and see if there's any other commentary here. Basically, about this here. I want to see what people like. What's the guy's name that has the Nevada Independent? I'll just type Las Vegas Stadium to see Las Vegas Stadium. Maybe it's Allegiant Stadium. I should type. They're talking about Mark Bourdain and talking about the tailgating and stuff like that. All right. Let's see here. And follow. Let's see here. Don't see that one. It's don't quite see that one. Latest is, yeah, I see stuff on the parking and about the PS. I don't see anything about the hard. I don't see anything about the hard data, the roof issue. Okay, that I don't see. That I don't see yet. So yet. I don't see anybody doing any deep dives here. All right, we go back to where we were. Yeah, and let's see here. John Davis says, Patrick and Blackman says, how do you rate their attempt at damage control? On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 4. That's where I rate it a 4. Because it was obvious that, first of all, they put the December report in at the last minute. But the December report was more an extension of the November report rather than a full and complete report like the November report was. It was obviously written to address the November report that caused the bad headlines from their perspective. Well, but on top of that, Webb gave an explanation that fit right in with the complaints that were issued by the Las Vegas Stadium whistleblower workers that this wasn't overstressing and that the real problem of the cable net roof was caused because they were trying to rush and fast track it. And Don Webb did not say that. He was given a written document which danced around that. And then the subcontractors that he mentioned, like Arab, they have listed on their website that this is a fast track project. I know I keep mentioning that, but before I close, which I'm going to do soon, I want you to see what I'm talking about, because it's very important that you understand the kind of pressure these subcontractors were under and how they recognize the situation, okay? We'll go up here and find this link that I installed. By the way, there are photographs here regarding the bolts and the welds, bad welds, by the way. So going up to, let's see here, mid-May 2020. Excuse me. Almost recovered from a cold here. Roof subcontractor. Stay there. It's funny how you can see things, right? You're looking for something and you run right by it. And that's what I don't want to do. There it is. Found it. Okay. All right. This is what the Arab firm right here. Arab is one of the firms that was mentioned by Don Webb. And the link is here. It says a hallmark project for the state of Nevada and the Raiders. Legion Stadium will feature 65,000 seats. You know what? I'm gonna read it from their point of view. Okay, I'll click it. That's Arab. All right. That they wrote this during the topping out. Okay, that was the topping out event, and they wrote a hallmark project for the state of Nevada and the Raiders. Legion Stadium will feature 65,000 seats, a movable field, a retractable north facade wall, and a translucent cable truss supported roof. Sharing the project team's common objective of expediting the construction timeline. Now, look at this. Sharing the project team's common objective of expediting the construction timeline. Arab conceptualized and implemented flexible design features, such as the adjustable structural connection at the cable truss to compression ring interface to align with the construction schedule. The design build team embraced a collaborative review approach within the Clark County Department of Building and Fire Prevention to achieve the project's phase permit goals in alignment with fast track construction goals. All right. Do you need any more evidence that these subcontractors were working on a fast track? And so basically, you've got the fox guarding the hen house, and Don Webb mentioning firms like Arab as being the reviewers. All these folks are under pressure to finish this thing in a rushed fashion. So they're working in unison with each other, in concert with each other. All right? And that's why you have some workers that said, hey, you know what? We don't like this. There was also a generational issue, as I understood it, because some of the supervisors with these contractors were young folks. They're like 23 years old. So you have some problems here. Keith Roscoe says, I'm a little confused. So the Raiders don't own the stadium. They're on the hook for $1.3 billion. On stadium board owns the stadium. No, the Raiders are not on the hook for that. No. No. The Clark County taxpayer is on the hook for $750 million. That's the bond issue. That bond issue is paid for from the stadium hotel tax, which is 88% of 1%, a special room tax within a designated zone within Clark County. Okay, that's one financial piece. The other financial piece, the one the Raiders are really, quote, on the hook for, is really the PSLs, because the Senate Bill 1 legislation said that they had to come up with $250 million in sales. They exceeded that, so the Raiders are fine. The NFL has its $200 million loan facility. They're fine. Bank of America presented the Raiders with a $600 million line of credit system. Okay. LIBOR is the interest rate, London interbank rate. It was originally reported $850 million. It's not. It's $600 million. So you've got $600 million, $750 million, $250, which is really now $423 million. Okay. And then, of course, you have the sponsorships. The sponsorships, Bedane said that they wanted to have 12 founding partner sponsorships. They only have 9 to 3 short, which means they're short of money. Okay. So, and that's where they essentially are. So, and they even went so far as to go to the Southern Nevada State Water Resources Board for $30 million. That meeting, I believe, is supposed to be this month, if not this week, and I want to see what the outcome of that was. But right now you've got $750 million. You got $200 million from the NFL. You had 428 million from PSLs. Let's say 432 million for PSLs, right? And 600 million from Bank of America. Okay, so that comes out to $1,982 million, and so that's not good. All right, when you start looking at the costs involved, that's not good. And because when you add the cost overruns, when you add the mechanics lien alone, the report there was that they expected somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 million of cost overruns. So you add that right there. So you're looking at, excuse me. Yeah. So you're looking at a new total, oops, excuse me. You're looking at a new total there. Cut that and then paste that there. All right. Oops, excuse me. Get rid of that like that. All right, cool. All right. And then do this. Oh, something's not cooperating. Boom. Boom, and take all that away. All right, fine. Then put 200 here. Get rid of that. Put 200 there. Put 0 there. All right. 0 there. And then the total. Okay, so with the cost overrun, that's $2,182 million. And that's just a $200 million cost overrun. So they are perilously close. Look, I don't care what they say. The way this is looking right now, if you add the only mitigating factor here are the sponsorships. And if they are able to if they're able to clear these sponsorships to the tune of, let's say, $900 million, that helps a great deal. Yeah, that would help a great deal. Because they have 750, 200 million, 432, 600, 200 in that. Yeah. So when you start adding the sponsorships costs, what goes through my mind is what's the cost for the parking? And then, of course, there's the off-site infrastructure costs. Holy Vic, holy. That's not just the parking. That's, remember that Kinder Morgan study where they had to spend money to light up the streets around the stadium and all that? That's the other piece that no one's talked about. So you're looking at a good, wow, wallop of losers. You're looking at a good situation where if you start spending some of the sponsorship money on construction rather than stadium operations, because you have the sponsors, right? If you use all of that on construction, you're going to have a little bit of a problem when it comes to operating the stadium going forward. So I've got a spreadsheet I got to pull out and recalculate some things, but that doesn't look good. They're on the mark. Let me put it this way, folks. They're not by any means in the clear and at all. So at all. So anyway, I hope so. Keith Roscoe, let me get back to you said I'm a little confused. This is what you wrote here. You said I'm a little confused. So the Raiders don't own the stadium. They're on the hook for, and no, they're not. Again, the Raiders are not on the hook for that. The Raiders might claim that they put in that kind of money. It's great for PR, look, right? But they're not. And so John Davis says, so did heat and cold cause you stress on the trusses? Yes. Yes. And what the Raiders don't want to see is the combination of bad weather they saw last year, where you had extreme snow and you had freezing rain. Remember that? If you have freezing rain, folks, game over, man. Game over. Webb can talk about all he wants about rain on itself, but if it's freezing rain, game over. I mean, if they're not announcing anything after that, somebody is definitely playing some voodoo over this. I'm telling you. So I'm just trying to take you through this. Some of you looking for definitive answers, but there are forces here who want to push this thing forward regardless. That's why you're seeing what you're seeing. That's why you're seeing these dog and pony shows and everything. Okay, rather than saying, hey, you know what, we're not ready yet. And we're not sure we're going to be ready, so take that deadline out of here. We'll stay in Oakland another year. We'll get this right. That's what they ought to be saying, but they're not saying that. And they're not going to say that until the bitter end. And I think, given that Mark Davis himself sits in these meetings, I think he's the one that's pushing them. I really do. I think Davis and whoever Mark is answering to in Vegas, they're the ones saying, okay. That's what I think is going on. And John Davis says, yeah. And John Mark says that's dangerous. Joseph Emmendura says, like I mentioned earlier, it's raining here in Southern California. A storm is headed to Vegas. Ooh. Hey, when is the storm supposed to get to Vegas? Let's check that forecast. Joseph, when is that storm supposed to get to Vegas? Oh, Keith, the stadium is owned by the Las Vegas Stadium Authority. And the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, in turn, is owned by Clark County. And you'd say, if you're asking why it's done that way, it's in order to float the $750 million general obligation bond. It's not a revenue bond. Anyone who tells you it's a revenue bond has no idea what they're talking about. What's the difference? A revenue bond takes a dedicated stream of money, like a hotel tax, and says, okay, we're going to use that. But if it dries up, the bond's going to default, right? Well, in order to prevent that, the only way to prevent that is to make what looks like a revenue bond, which has a dedicated revenue source, a general obligation bond. And what you do is that you change where the funds are taken out of to the general fund. So basically the hotel tax goes to the general fund and is essentially paid for out of the general fund out of a special account. All right. But if that money is less than the bond debt, the money from the stadium hotel tax, then you can automatically dip into the taxpayer part. The reserve is only 9 million. It's small. All right. The question is, where is this going to look? Not now, because look, in the first 3 years, when you take a look at the bond debt service and debt coverage ratio, they're okay. It's years 4, 5, and 6 that stuff starts looking weird. So whenever they say things look fine right now and it's slightly below, whatever. All right. And my question to them is, hey, look, have you applied the debt coverage ratio? Because a lot of years, a lot of months of debt coverage ratio really put them under. But if you are just taking the ledger and you're looking at the straight bond debt, that bond debt ledger, that list, it does not take each monthly bond cost and multiply it times 1.5. That's your debt coverage ratio. And that's how you determine really how much money you've got coming in and whether it's adequate to meet the bond covenant. All right. So you notice the reporters that people don't ask things because they don't know. And a person like me will tell them they don't want to believe me, for reasons, these stupid reasons, right? Whatever. Hey, nature. I got God on my side. That's all I gotta say. Joseph Ramirez says, from what I heard a day or two, Black Lion says, do the Raiders have insurance pertaining to the deal? They have insurance from a number. Yeah, they do. But I will look further and deeper into who's insuring it and how. I think, because I'm making an assumption, I don't think the Raiders will be stupid enough to self-insure. Some people do that. In this case, I don't believe so. I'll double check. Keith Ross says he retracted his statement. Yeah. So I'll retract that. So it is 12:45. I'm going to shuffle off the Buffalo here because I'm still recovering from a cold and I don't want it to grab back. Keith says, got it now. Thanks for explaining. You got it, man. Appreciate it. Hey, everybody. Thank you for your support. And it's been a great ride. Zenny62 Media is off and running. More to come. I'll see you all later. And by the way, when you go to Oakland News Now, check out, I want you to read the truth about Las Vegas Stadium, okay? But also the truth about the Oakland bulk and oversized terminal, the Insight Terminal Solutions, Oakland bulk and oversized terminal. Very important to understand what's really going on with that project. It's not a cold terminal at all. Insight Terminal Solutions hired me to get out the word about it. I've been doing that a lot. And so I want to make sure that you understand what's happening with it, okay? And the truth. And so I'm putting this link up here. And there it is. Different subject for those of you who might be interested, all right? John Cause says, do you have a theory on why Tom Flores is not in the Hall of Fame? Oh. I don't want to spin a theory. I think I'm going to ask some questions. We'll deal with that subject later. That's a tough one. Hey, good night, everybody. I'll see you. Appreciate it, Keith. Thank you. Yeah, racial bias. Joseph Mandura says racial bias in a question. Hey, Joseph, would you pick up Tom Flores when do a vlog on that or follow up? All right. I got to get going. I'm starting to feel under again. All right. See you guys. Take care. Good night. Thank you.